My grandmother left me her entire estate and my own family stopped speaking to me the same week. At the reading of her will, my Aunt Carol stood up and screamed that I'd manipulated a dying old woman, but I hadn't visited my grandmother in over a year before she passed. I had no idea why she'd chosen me, until I found the letter she'd hidden inside her Bible, addressed only to me. The letter was dated 3 weeks before her death, written in shaking handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I need you to know the truth about your mother's accident. My mother died when I was 6, a car crash everyone called a tragedy. I'd never questioned, but my grandmother's next line made my blood run cold. It wasn't an accident. Carol was driving that car. My hands shook holding the paper. Aunt Carol, the woman who'd raised me after my mother died, who tucked me in every night, who cried at every one of my birthdays missing my mom, had been driving the car that killed her. I read further. My grandmother wrote that the police report had been altered, favors called in by our wealthy family, protecting Carol from consequences for 22 years. I confronted Carol that same night, letter trembling in my hand, her face drained of color instantly. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. No denial in her voice, only fear. That silence told me everything the letter hadn't. I asked her directly, "Were you drunk?" She nodded once, tears finally falling. "I've spent every day since trying to make it up to you," she said. "I couldn't. That's why you fought so hard to raise me," I said, pieces clicking together violently. "Guilt, not love." Carol shook her head desperately, insisting both were true, that loving me became real even if it started as penance. I didn't believe her, not that night. I walked out into the rain, replacing 18 years of memories with a single, devastating question. What else had she lied about? I spent the next 2 weeks digging through old records, calling the original responding officer, now retired, hoping he'd talk. He did, reluctantly, over coffee in a diner that smelled like burnt toast. He confirmed everything, the altered blood alcohol results, the report rewritten under pressure from my grandfather's business connections. My family hadn't just hidden a tragedy, they'd erased a crime. That explained the inheritance. My grandmother hadn't chosen me out of favoritism. She'd chosen me out of guilt so heavy it consumed her final years. The estate wasn't a gift. It was restitution she never had the courage to hand me while alive. I finally understood why she'd avoided my calls for months before her death, unable to face me while carrying that secret in silence. Then came the twist I never expected. The retired officer mentioned one more detail, almost as an afterthought. My mother hadn't been alone in that car. There was a second child in the back seat that night, one nobody had ever mentioned to me, one who'd survived without a scratch and been quietly sent to live with relatives out of state before I was old enough to remember anything at all. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. A sibling, my mother's other child, hidden away, raised as someone else's, erased from every family photo and every story I'd ever been told growing up. I demanded Carol tell me everything, and this time she didn't hesitate, exhausted from decades of carrying secrets alone. "Her name is Emma," Carol said quietly. "She lives 2 hours from here. She doesn't know either." I drove to Emma's address that weekend, hands sweating on the steering wheel the entire way. She opened the door looking startlingly like the photographs of my mother I kept in a shoebox. I introduced myself, showed her the letter, watched her entire understanding of her own life collapse in real time, exactly as mine had weeks earlier. We stood in her doorway and cried for a mother neither of us truly got to know. Emma and I split the inheritance evenly, no lawyers required, just 2 sisters choosing each other over money for the first time in either of our lives. Carol still calls every Sunday. I still answer, though something between us will never fully heal. Family isn't only who raises you, sometimes it's who tells you the truth, eventually. Who do you think deserved forgiveness here? Comment below, and subscribe for more true family secrets.